So the school tuition organizations were created by the Iowa legislature as a way for entities to create nonprofit organizations, so they're 501c3 organizations, to accept donations from the public. And then those STO organizations are able to provide tuition grants to students who are attending private schools. So tend to be primarily parochial schools, Catholic schools, but there are other private schools in the state who've created their own STOs. As a way to provide those tuition assistance grants to families who have income below 400% of the poverty level. And the incentive that the legislature provided to the taxpayer is, in Iowa, if you make a donation to the STO, you get a 75% tax credit on your Iowa return.
Our firm has recommended the STO for years and years. And it's just one easy way to manage your state income taxes. You get a pretty good bang for your buck as far as from the state and the federal. And now that it's going up to 75% instead of 65%, that helps even more. The high income individuals use it a lot because their state and local tax deduction is being limited. Maximum they can deduct is $10,000. So they use it to lower that. And in addition to the tax, there's also an Iowa surtax in various counties, which can be another 10%. So that eliminates, if you eliminate that tax, you also eliminate that surtax. So instead of in an 8.5% or 9% bracket, you're in the 0 bracket. And from the other end of it, though, even the people that don't itemize can still reduce their Iowa tax by 75% of their contribution.
So operationally, how this works, when the client has an STO tax credit and we're preparing their return, they'll receive a tax credit certificate from the STO that are approved by the Iowa Department of Economic Development. That tax credit certificate is going to have a number on it that corresponds with the information that's provided to the state by the STO, so the state knows what to expect when you file your tax return. And then on the tax return, we're entering that tax credit certificate number, the amount of the credit, and then that credit just simply reduces the amount of tax that the taxpayer has to pay on their tax return. Now, if their credit is more than what their tax liability is, such that it reduces their tax to 0, they can't have the excess refunded. These credits are not refundable, but they can be carried over into future years.
So for your federal tax return, it's not quite as obvious as it is for your state tax return. State tax return is simple. It's a 75% non-refundable credit. That's it. So for federal, it's a little bit more complicated. For federal, what you're going to do is the amount of the tax credit received, we have to reduce whatever the charitable contribution is. So for example, if a donor gave $1,000, they get a $750 Iowa tax credit. So their donation left over is $250, which you would get to deduct on your federal tax return. So the cool thing about that is for people that are already limited based on the SALT limitation of $10,000 for state and local income tax, you're moving what otherwise would be a non-deductible tax down on the tax return on Schedule A to a line that is now deductible for them. So you're taking something that otherwise is not deductible and making it deductible. So sometimes we have clients who perhaps aren't itemizing every year. So we might suggest that they bunch their STO gift. So they would overbuy their credits in year 1 to use some of those in year 1 and some of those in year 2, but they get the full federal deduction up front when they purchase those credits.
The thing about it is, if you have, say you pay $10,000 in Iowa income taxes, if you're not a W-2 earner, every quarter you got to write a $2,500 check, pay estimates. With an STO, at the end of the year, you can make your contribution and you eliminate your tax and you eliminate having to pay estimates the next year. So it's kind of a double whammy where it helps both now and in the future to manage your income taxes, your Iowa income taxes.
Well, the state of Iowa has other tax credit programs whereby they provide, there's an endowment fund credit that gives you a 25% tax credit. The STO is by far the largest tax credit that's out there. I'm not aware of any other Iowa tax credit that goes higher than 25%. So with the STO, you're getting an additional 50% over that. So it is the best deal as far as bang for your buck.
For taxpayers who live in a school district that charges surtax, you save the surtax on that transaction. So the donors to the STO avoid that surtax. They are not having to pay that because the calculation for the tax credit is taken out prior to assessing the surtax.
Absolutely. The surtax actually does impact several people who live in the Dubuque area. The Western Dubuque School District has a surtax, and of course we have many clients in that area. So the STO helps eliminate some of the impact of that by taking away some of the hurt related to the surtax, because the surtax is very real, and in some communities, it can be as high as 6 or 7%. So the STO comes in very handy to help offset that.
So as we're having these conversations with clients, we talk about these strategies for tax planning, tax savings. A lot of times the client thinks, well, I need to make a cash donation to the STO in order to get this credit. That's not necessarily true. You can donate non-cash items. So appreciated stocks and bonds. Farmers can donate grain, for example. And so the STOs can accept those non-cash donations, and those are still eligible for the tax credit. Now, the kind of the double benefit for the taxpayer here, when you talk about appreciated securities, appreciated stock, for example, normally a taxpayer, let's say they bought a stock for $100, it's now worth $200. Normally they'd have to sell it, get the $200, and then give it to the STO. Well, with appreciated securities, they don't have to sell it. They can give it to the STO, and they get to use that fair market value, that $200, as the amount of their donation and the basis for the tax credit. So they've only got $100 invested in that stock. They're going to get a tax credit based on a $200 market value. So the whole idea of donating appreciated securities just makes this tax credit that much more powerful.
So the STO tax credit is really a credit for everyone. I've had 80-year-old little old ladies. I've had high income, high earners. I've had people with $300 of tax liability buy enough credits to reduce their $300 of tax liability. It's literally for everyone.
Everybody can take advantage of this credit. If your tax liability in Iowa is $1,000 and you want to get that down to $250, you can give $1,000 to the STO, and you're only going to pay $250 to the state of Iowa. So you don't have to be wealthy to take advantage of this. So I'm not aware of any other contribution that you can make where essentially 80 to 85% of that is going to come back to you immediately. So I would say it's one of the easiest ways out there to save some tax, and so I heavily promote this, and I think it's a great idea, for everybody, and because I'm partial to Catholic education, I also want people to give for that reason too. So.
I'm a believer in it. In the STO, I know I get blowback from some clients that say, well, if I give it to the STO, I'm not actually giving it to my school, but you can designate at least half of it to your school, and some schools get more than that because they get the pool from the archdiocese. So if you're in for Catholic education, does it really matter whether it's locally or another school or whatever? As long as you're supporting Catholic education, this is the best way to do it.
So my husband and I give to the STO annually. We've only missed 1 year, and that was the year that it started, and we didn't know about it yet. And we give twofold. First, there's the tax credit, that helps. But secondly, we're both products of Catholic education, and we were students that would have probably qualified for the STO program. So it's really a way for us to give back, because I'm where I am today because of the Catholic education I received.
For your buck.
To an Iowa